Mouseketeers and Disney enthusiasts. Happy Wednesday. It's time to grab your ears and listen to this week's podcast episode. We are Kara and Kaycee, and we welcome you to the most magical podcast on the internet. We call it Why We Disney.
All right, so what is up, guys? I cannot contain my excitement right now. Welcome to the Why We Disney podcast. We hope you are having an awesome Wednesday. And I think it's fair to say that you might not know either of us. So let's get started with some introductions. My name is Kaycee. And just to clarify, that is not spelled Casey. It's spelled Kaycee. I know it's weird, but I think it's adorable. I am married to the most incredible husband in the world. He is my prince. His name is Daniel. And I have no kids, but a precious dog who I'm obsessed with. And yeah, so I've been a Disney fanatic for about 2 years now. I got an annual pass in 2019 just to try to go as much as possible to make that annual pass worth it. But I went as a kid, but couldn't really grasp like the idea of Disney because, like, let's be real, Disney is a lot, like a lot. But I decided that when I took my family last October, I kind of came to like a crossroads and I'm like, okay, Kaycee, do you love this enough? Like, do you love it enough to like do something with? So after I took my family, I finally said yes. I said yes to Disney, and I completely transformed my Instagram through to complete Disney, like nothing else. So a little bit of my life and just a lot of my Disney life, I guess. But so after I did that, I'd started building relationships with brands, Disney brands, and just brands that I fallen in love with through Disney. But anyway, so I started to build those relationships, and here I am. This is 2 years later, and I'm at this point completely obsessed with it. And that is actually how Kara and I met. So Kara, you want to hit us up and introduce yourself?
Of course, I'd love to. Thank you, Kaycee. Hi, everyone. My name is Kara. Just to piggyback off what she said, it's Kara with a K, Kara, and not a Cara, as many Starbucks like to write. I'm currently 26 years old, and I'm working as a high school music teacher, and I am a dog mom to the wonderful Shayla Renee Shiva. You can also find her on the gram if you'd like to look her up. But just a little bit about my Disney past. So I went to Disney World for the very first time in Ears to You 2002 with my family. And to be completely honest to our listeners, I didn't remember a single thing. The only thing I remembered from that trip is meeting Ariel, to which she was my favorite princess back in the day. Then my best friend Brandon, actually, his sister Amanda is absolutely obsessed with Disney. And she has an Instagram. You can find her at Magically Amanda Victoria. And through family friends, she's very close to me. She's like a sister. And she started this Disney Instagram. And I was like, Amanda, what's going on with this Instagram? She's constantly taking pictures of different bags and things like that. And I was like, wow, maybe I need to go back to Disney. My mom and I took a trip back in 2019, and I completely fell in love with Disney again. Just being in the most magical place on earth. As many of you know, I struggle with anxiety and just a lot of, hype. And when I was there, it was like everything else faded away, and I was just embraced with all of the magic of the world. So I said, okay, here I am too. And I started my Disney Instagram at Disney's Lost Queen. And just like Kaycee, I got in contact with a lot of different now friends, I can call them, and brands. And Disney has really transformed my whole life. So here we are, and we're starting this podcast.
It's so exciting. I can't.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to be doing this with you, even.
Yeah.
This is great.
So, I don't know, Kaycee, well, how about we talk about why we started this podcast in general?
Yeah, in general. So Why We Disney is we came up with this because after I kind of had this or started this obsession with Walt Disney World. I started hearing some like negative feedback about Walt Disney World, and
Sacre bleu. Not
yes, so
negative.
not negative, like you're kidding. So I just became super interested in like why people feel this way. And I think that we can both agree, Kara, that like there's a very right way to do Disney and then there's a very not fun way to do Disney. Like
Absolutely.
yes, and you can go and you can spend a ton of money and not see a lot and not have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an opposite way that you can go reasonably, and I know Disney is fairly expensive, but there are ways that you can cut costs. Like there are ways that you can enjoy Disney on a reasonable budget.
Yeah, Kaycee,
And
we talk about that all the
yes,
time, how Disney
yes.
is time and money.
Oh my gosh.
And so
Absolutely.
while anyone can go to Disney and really do it their way, when we talked about when we talked to Disney about when we talk to friends about Disney, can I talk today? We always try to tell them to get the most bang out of their buck and hit up shows and hit up different eateries and things like that. So I think your premise of just why we Disney is amazing when you brought this to the table.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And something that I wanted to mention too is you as a listener, whoever you are so lucky to have found this podcast. But I think it's great that Kara and I, so Kara and Kaycee, we do Disney like very differently, but I think like her way is awesome. And there's like such great things that come out of that. But then there's also like the way that I do Disney, which is completely different, but still so great. And I think you really have to like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like cater to like your family and the
Absolutely.
people who
Yep.
you're going with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're super lucky being a listener because you're going to get like Disney from two different perspectives. I personally love to wander around Disney with like nowhere important to be. But Kara, like she's like such a planner and she like organizes her day so beautifully.
Oh my
And
goodness. If the
it's
listeners could
wonderful.
see my 17-page color-coded itineraries down to the minute.
Yes.
And this maybe just isn't different for me. Right now I'm currently in Maryland, and with my teaching schedule, I'm not able to get to the parks as often. Right
Mhm.
now it's just once a year. So I try to pack as much as I can into this trip as possible. I understand people that, go to Disney a little more often. Maybe they can take a resort day or just
Mhm.
relax a little bit more. And that could be for you. And we're not saying why you Disney, nothing's wrong with any way that you do it or any way that our listeners are doing it.
Right.
We're just, suggesting different suggestions, different advice, and different things that you could possibly bring to your trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can agree too that like Disney is a lot of moving parts. Like, I mean, there's fast passes, there's, where you're going to stay, there's dinner reservations. Oh my gosh, there's virtual queues now. There's so many things that if you've never been to Disney, like you have no idea what those things are. So, like, putting in the research and making a schedule, like I think it is so important. I think it's great.
Absolutely. I know for my trip last year, and this was before I, made friends via the internet, I was watching Disney food blog YouTube videos. And people may think I'm crazy for this, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this here, but I started way back at episode 1 of theirs. And I completely watched all of their content. And if they have like hundreds of videos on their channel just of such specific things, but I wanted to get so much information before I went on my trip, to make the most out of it. And that's how I studied my Disney before I even went. But still, being a Disney enthusiast now, I still have to reach out to friends that go to the parks a little more often just to get their advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
And our listeners, maybe you guys are wondering kind of how we met. So Kaycee, should we tell them that story?
Yes, we can definitely. I think since I want to tell the story, but I think since you're the one that kind of initiated our friendship, maybe like you hit that one.
How about I tell the beginning parts and then you can take it from there?
Perfect. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So with this whole Disney Instagram community, a bunch of my friends said, Kara, you have such amazing shirt ideas and you have really cool designs. Why don't you open up your open up a small shop? And since COVID-19 happened and I like to keep myself busy, long story short, I ended up opening a small shop that you can find on Instagram now called Closet Royale. And during the opening, I was actually looking for influencers, for brand reps. And lo and behold, Kaycee applied to be a brand rep, and she is now. You can use her code, but she is a brand rep for Closet Royale. And I just became so close with you, Kaycee. And you were really just so inviting and opening, and you have such a warm heart, which really just attracted me to your love of Disney and just your support of the community.
Yeah. I'm so grateful even now sitting like recording our very first episode. It's just surreal to me how so many people applied for that position. And I mean, how many did you pick? I think you picked like 4, right? Or 3.
I had 3. I have Ashley, who's over in Darling of Disney. She's over in Disneyland.
Yes.
And then I have you and Emily that are both representatives for Disney World.
I just think it's so surreal. Like, however many people signed up for that. And I don't know, like, it was just orchestrated perfectly. And we just got like, we clicked. Like, our personalities clicked. When we first met, it was like, wow, I want to be her friend. Like, whoever she is, I want to be her friend.
Absolutely.
And her shop has amazing designs. Like, if you look at my Instagram, which is at Kaycee's Corner, spelled with a K, not with a C. But if you look at my Instagram, like, it's just full of her stuff just because I love her products. I wear them every single time I go to the park. I'm absolutely obsessed with them.
Thanks, girl.
So good. So good. So anyway, that is how we met. And this is how you guys are you're so lucky to have found this podcast, because it's going to be great.
Yeah. And, we were thinking so much about what we wanted to name it. And then we just ran with because you were doing interviews previously, right?
Yes, exactly. So I had started like an Instagram live called Why We Disney. But essentially it's like, hey, let's talk about why people who love Disney do Disney and how you should too. So like I had people ask questions about like if you've ever had a bad experience at Disney, like I want to hear about it. And I want people to know how we can prevent that from happening. Like if you're going with a family of 22 people, like it's going to be really hard to make fast passes. It's going to be really hard to all get in to see the same show. Like people, it's hard to know that if you've never done your research. I wanted to make it more of a resource for people that may have done Disney wrong or heard bad things about Disney, bad reviews. So I just wanted to be an avenue for people who could love Disney like me. Absolutely. And I hope that we're able to do that through this.
Yes. And I hope all of you listeners are going to continue to listen to us. Of course, we definitely want that. But more than that, actually get substance out of what we're saying and really apply that to your future trips, or let your friends and family know that are traveling to some of these places, because they could really, both save some money and have some more magical experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do want to just do one quick plug. If you are listening and you have any questions about Disney, and even if they're about Disneyland, we will find out the question for you. We'll figure it out. But our email is whywedisney@gmail.com. If you have any questions whatsoever for us, please email us and we will definitely answer your questions on this podcast. And we'll probably just shoot you an email back with just the resources that we've gathered.
Yeah, definitely. And also, even if you don't have a question, but want to hear something on the podcast, Kaycee and I love to talk about Disney. That's very obvious. So if you want to hear some recommendations about maybe some restaurants or some rides, in future episodes, we're going to get into some specifics, maybe some popular Disney debates. But if there's something that you would love to hear, definitely send us an email and we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I can't contain my excitement. Oh, I love it.
And just so you remember what our release date is, you can remember the W's. So we are going to be releasing podcasts every Wednesday. So you can celebrate Why We Disney Wednesday. Kaycee, do you want to talk about anything that we might have in the future? Types of episodes or segments or things like that?
Yes. I would absolutely love to talk about that. I wish that I had them in a list here in front of me. But I know we're going to continue to talk about like things that Disney is doing upcoming, right? We're going to talk about COVID-19 and kind of the regulations that they're putting on the parks, things that you need to be prepared for. Like, hey, maybe don't come to Disney and just bring one mask. Like you need a couple of masks.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know that until earlier this week, and someone was talking to me about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's a thing.
Very much so. So like things like that, virtual queues, nobody knows what a virtual queue is, like and how to join those and how to be super proactive about the parks now, because they are just so different. I mean, you're throwing in, no fireworks, character meet and greets, just upcoming things that we feel like you should know if you are traveling to Walt Disney World in 2020. So those are kind of upcoming episodes that we're super excited about. But yeah, I hope that answers that question.
I believe it does. Now, I think that is all we have for this week's episode, but of course, stay tuned next Wednesday for Why We Disney Wednesday for our second episode and some special segments and more information from Kara and Kaycee. See you next week.